In the end of part 2, we were looking for this petrified tree, which we thought would be located somewhere on Dry Creek. After hours of searching, we found it. But there was no treasure. We've been asked not to disclose the location of the petrified tree, but it was nowhere near Dry Creek. It wasn't at all easy to get to, and in the end, we decided the terrain was probably too steep for an 80-year-old man, so we were back to the drawing board.
When she had read the poem, it had led her to Montana, but when I read the poem, I had a very different theory, and it meant us driving back to Wyoming and into the heart of Yellowstone National Park. But as soon as we entered the top corner of the park, they started closing the roads because of an approaching snowstorm. And soon enough, we were caught in the middle of that snowstorm.
Since we couldn't reach our destination, we decided to set up camp and wait out the storm. It wasn't all that bad because we could check out Yellowstone's wildlife and its famous waterfalls. But we definitely weren't prepared for the cold. All we had was one thin blanket, no sleeping bags, and a tent that let in all the cold air. It was probably one of the coldest nights of our lives, and we didn't sleep at all.
The next day, the roads were reopened and we could make our way to the start of our search area, which was Madison Junction. This is the point where the Gibbon River and the Firehole River meet to form the Madison River. It's a popular fishing spot because the warm waters are perfect for the trout that live there. I noticed this location on a map and it stood out to me because of the word junction. I recently moved to the States and I had to retake my driving test to get my US license, and I remember the wording in the handbook said, "You must halt at a junction." And this reminded me of the first clue in the poem that said, "Begin it where warm waters halt." So if a junction describes a place where things must halt, then the point where the warm waters of the Firehole River and the Gibbon River intersect in Madison Junction sounded like the perfect location for the first clue. It's also known as the place where Yellowstone was born and the beginning of the whole national park system. Forrest always said how much he loved Yellowstone, even saying that's where his heart was. This spot was the heart of Yellowstone, so it seemed like the perfect place to start. From there, you follow the road into the Firehole Canyon. The official name for this road is the Firehole Canyon Drive. The significance of this is the word drive, because when something is too far to walk, you typically drive. So this seemed like the answer to the mini riddle of navigating a canyon that's too far to walk, but close by.
There's some nice waterfalls to see along the way, but from there we took the road further south to the Nez Perce Creek.
The way we saw it, the first half of the poem had been all about driving and following the road, but the second half switched to following the river. So at this stage, we needed to park up just below the home of Brown. Nez Perce Creek is listed as home to rainbow and brown trout, and a place where they always seek refuge. But it's more than that. It's the first place that brown trout were introduced to the Rocky Mountains. They were brought over from Europe, and only a single plant of 9,300 fish was made in Nez Perce Creek. Right next to the creek and the parking lot is a picnic area. This is maybe why Forrest said to bring a sandwich. A little beyond the picnic area is a single grave marker for a lady known as Mattie Culver. She died in the park in 1889. Several times in the book, Forrest mentions entering cemeteries and how it took guts to do so. He also talks about finding a single grave marker during his tour of Vietnam. So we believe this grave marker was a sign we were on the right path. There's also a sign warning you that you're about to enter a bison grazing area, which would explain why it's no place for the meek. The road from here just leads to a dead end, where a bicycle trail then begins. This fits with the line in the poem, "The end is ever drawing nigh." And the name of the bicycle route is Fountain Freight Road, which fits perfectly with the line describing heavy loads and water high. Another line in the poem appeared to hint that Forrest may have rode a bike when he says, "I've done it tired," possibly referring to the tyres of a bicycle. After a short distance, the bike trail arrives at Ojo Caliente Springs, which shared a lot of symbolism with graphics and drawings from the book. Firstly, the spring is located on a bend in the river that takes the same shape as the omega symbol that Forrest often uses. And the actual shape of the spring looks just like the bird in the moon from the final illustration in his book.
And right next to Ojo Caliente is the remains of an old tarmac road, which has mostly disintegrated now, only leaving behind some sparsely scattered tarmac pieces.
We think this is what the line "tarry scant with marble gaze" means. Forrest is telling you to look out for the tarry rocks that are scantily dispersed next to Ojo Caliente. This old road continues to a dead end when it meets the Firehole River, and just opposite is a small wooded island that exists in the middle of the river. We felt that if the treasure was hidden anywhere, it was probably under one of the trees on that island.
But we only arrived to this place after following the clues on the ground, so we weren't at all prepared to be making any river crossings. The temperature hadn't got up much above freezing, and even though the water was warmer up by the hot spring, it was icy cold right here.
Maybe this is what Forrest meant when he said, "Your effort will be worth the cold." But it was early June and the river was too deep and flowing too fast to safely cross. We'd also lost a day because of the snowstorm, and that afternoon we still had to make the 8-hour drive back to Denver to catch our flight. So we made a plan to come back later this year when the river would hopefully be lower and safer to cross. But that's when we got the news. The treasure had been found by someone much smarter than us. Was it found on the Firehole River? I don't know, we're all waiting to find out, but I'm pretty sure it was in Yellowstone National Park. Maybe we were on the right path, but we never even got as far as finding a blaze, so I'm not completely confident in our location. I think if we were completely convinced, we would have ditched our flight and found a way to cross that river. All we know is this story isn't over yet, and there will be a part 4, so look out for that.
Zoltar is here to tell you you can believe it. I will give you a fortune.
Listen.
All right.